What's going on, everyone? Really excited to get into this video today. I think we're going to be covering something that's really important in our surfing progression, and that's actually getting footage of yourself surfing. Getting footage of yourself surfing can open up a lot of insights into understand the nuances better of what we need to be doing and how we need to be changing our technique and how we need to be changing our surfing to achieve the results that we want. To help me with this today, DJI have actually been kind enough to send me a DJI OSMO Action 4, so I thought I'd use this today for the video. And I think something that I did want to talk about as well is how we can use something like this so that we can get different vantage points of our surfing. So we know exactly what angles we need to be getting to properly assess and be able to progress our surfing in different ways, because we're looking for wave positioning versus our board positioning versus how we're actually completing something from a technique perspective. We do need different vantage points. We do need different angles to see this effectively. And this is something that I think in surfing, broadly speaking, it's something that people aren't using enough. Actually using footage of themselves to rerun over waves that they've had to see the opportunities that they might have missed and see what they could have done differently in terms of positioning on the board, positioning on the wave, and of course technique. So really excited to give this a go. Let's get into the edit. Alrighty guys, so let's get into it. I'm just going to show you exactly how I'm setting up the board for this as well. And I should also say that I'm going to be using the DJI audio today. I find that in the past I've had some issues out in the water if I'm wanting to leave myself some notes or talk to you guys with the wind and the water getting in the audio piece. And so I'm just going to use that and see how that goes today. But in terms of what we're going to be doing today, so we've got to have this handheld device. Okay, this is good for getting that upward angle so you can see how you're walking along the board, see how the body's positioned, relatively speaking, and kind of see how you position on the wave as well. Now, in terms of the positioning on the board, the first thing I've got here is I've got this mount at the front. This is going to be really useful to see how I'm moving up the board and the foot positioning as I'm moving up the board as well. So for the cross stepping and everything like that, can be really handy. What I'm also going to do is I'm also going to use the back mount here. Okay, so this one, this is going to have the vantage point from behind. And this one can be really good for seeing foot positioning on the board. What I really want to see when I'm going for a turn, if I do a good turn or if I do a worse turn, where is my foot position? Is it far enough on the rail, or am I bogging a rail because I'm falling into the trap of having that foot too far in the center? So what we'll do, we'll head to the surf and we'll see how we go out there today. All right, so I thought I might have left it a bit late, but we're actually kind of maybe fully scored here. Ew. Some fun little left peelers, that's what I'm after. I've been going right in big waves for about 2 years now, so this will be fun. Alright, so what I really wanted to do with this today is to break down the different angles which can help to improve different elements of your surfing. And I guess this all comes down to, depending on the angle that we're able to get, we're able to see different things and we're able to make different interpretations as to how successfully we're going about implementing what we're working on, whether it's how our position is on the board or whether it's our position on the wave or a combination of both. What's the best angle and what's the best tactic or strategy to film ourselves so that we can improve our surfing depending on our level of progression. To break it down, we're going to have the camera both on the board. This is going to be at a back and then a front angle and seeing different things there. And this is really good for beginner to intermediate surfers. Firstly, because it's not so hard to have to hold the camera yourself. But secondly, what it's really good at doing is it's great at picking up technique. So it's really good at picking up position, foot position on the board, body position, where our eyes, and we're going to break all of that down today. And then what I find to be really good for our surfing as we advance past the intermediate stages, so when we're getting to more advanced levels where we're nose riding, cross stepping quite confidently, and all of these things, is it's really important to be able to see where our position is on the wave so that we can then advance from there. So we're starting out with the back angle, where the DJI is positioned at the back of the board. Now, this is really good for a couple of things, and firstly, I wanted to say it's fantastic for our pop-up. So if you are finding that you're someone who is trying to figure out your pop-up and you're not sure how you're progressing, or you're not sure if you're doing the right things, this is really good. If you have got a strategy that you're looking to implement, and this goes with pretty much everything we'll speak about today, if we've got a strategy and an idea in our mind as to how we want to execute something, it's really good to be able to see this with the camera, because we can see as to whether we're successfully doing this or not. Again, it's all such a rush and a blur when we're trying to learn something. And so to be able to go back and look and see, okay, did we actually execute this in the way that we intended? It can be really, really helpful. So for the pop-up, what's really good is you can see exactly where the feet are landing. And the big things that I see, particularly for people in progressing their pop-up, is how are they going at not using their knee? So maybe a knee's landing on the board and that's getting them into this kind of one knee, one foot on the board and trying to navigate that. It can be a really, really good effective tool to progress past this. The other thing that I think is really important to look at for the back angle is our foot positioning. Now, this can be with respect to how far up or down the board we are when we're trying to do different things. So say we're trying to complete a turn, and if we have a marker on our board, that might tell us, okay, this is where our back foot needs to be on the board when we're turning. If we have that marker, and this could be something as simple as a wax line on the board, then we can see, are we actually hitting that? And if we think we are, but we're not, then we've got a really, really good thing that we know we can actually act on and work on to improve this. The other thing and the other subtle details that I think is really important to progress with, and this takes us from our intermediate turning to our advanced turning, is where our foot is actually landing with respect to not how far up or down the board it is, but how far it is onto the left or the right of the rail, depending on which way we're turning. A really good turn, especially in a longboard, because most of the longboards have a fairly wide tail, what we actually need to do is we need to preference that side of the rail. So we actually need to, if we're turning heel side, say I'm a goofy footer going left, my back foot will actually need to preference that heel side rail. So actually bringing the foot further and closer to the right hand side of the rail so that I can turn properly. And then if I'm going to redirect to the other direction, I then need to place my foot not in the center, but actually on the other side of the rail, on the toe side rail, so I can bottom turn out of that cutback. Really, really important things, and I find that if we can get nice and objective with this, and if we can control these elements and see what we're doing really well and what we need to improve on, it can be really fantastic for your surfing. So that's definitely something I'd recommend. All right, it just started to rain a bit, so I'm now undercover, but we will go ahead. So the next one is the front angle, okay? And so for the front angle, what we really want to be looking at is, I guess, it gives us a really good view of our body, but also our foot positioning, especially for our cross-stepping. And this is really good for a few different reasons. With our cross-stepping, and this is similar to something that we said with the back angle, I often tell people to utilize wax lines to see where their feet are landing. We know that with our cross steps, our eyes actually need to be up, and that actually means that a lot of the time, we can actually miss the lines that we're setting out for ourselves. We can therefore land too short of the nose, or we can step too far, leaving the next two steps to be too small, which I've covered previously on the channel. So these are some things that we want to be on the eye out for. But the way that we can know if we're landing in the right place on the board for our cross steps, of course, is if we've got the camera at the front, so getting the DJI at the front of the board, and then we can see, okay, are we hitting our marks with our cross step? Are we leaving ourselves adequate space for our cross steps to get to the nose effectively? So that's the first thing that can be really, really good. The second thing that I wanted to mention is obviously we can see our eyes. They are usually the first kind of prerequisite that we need to get right to be able to do things effectively, because our body usually follows where the eyes are going. So of course, we can really easily see with the DJI at the front, are our eyes too low? Are they staying towards our feet? Are they not looking ahead? Giving us all the information that we require to make sure that we can make the decisions that we need to change our line across the wave. If we know that the wave is doing something else, shutting down, it's going really steep, or if we need to go around a section, all the way to, is it appropriate to even go to the nose? Are we coming out onto the shoulder and it's no longer the right section for it? Now, the other thing that the front angle I find really, really effective for is actually the preferencing of the rail and the line that we're taking on the wave. Something I often say to people is make sure they're engaging the right line before they cross step, okay? And so we can actually see if we're cross stepping towards the nose, how are we actually utilizing that inside rail? Are we allowing ourselves to drop too far towards the flats as we're cross stepping forwards? Or are we engaging the inside rail really, really nicely? This can be something that we use to really, really good effect if we know what to look out for. If we're practicing our cross-stepping, if we're practicing our weight distribution from rail to rail, the front angle can be really, really effective. Let's now go through what happens when we use this one, so the handheld. So for the handheld, what this is really, really good for is, I guess, seeing everything within context. So it's a little bit harder to see wave position when we have the camera on the board, and that's what I really, really like to use the handheld for, so we can place it in different angles to see different things. When we've got this in our hand, we can actually place it away from us so that we can see what our body is doing, what our feet are doing, what the board's doing on the wave. Okay, so we can actually see how high or how low we are in the wave. Now, when we're going to learn different things, whether this be your cross-stepping, for example, within the framework at longboard sessions, we talk a lot about our starting line for our cross-stepping and why our errors in our cross-stepping isn't often a manifestation of not being able to cross-step, but it's the starting position of our board on the wave that we need to get right first. This is really, really good for that because as we begin to cross step, we can figure out our angle of our board and we can figure out how high or low the board is on the wave. The angle I like to use for that is actually coming high and out away from us. So having the leading hand when we're on our forehand or our backhand when we're on our backhand is doing that. Then we've got the hand that's furthest away from the wave actually doing this, and then we can see our position really, really nicely. Now, another way that we can use this as a handheld is we rotate it around and we bring it forwards in front of us. Then this is a really, really good way to have that dynamic visual of our cross-stepping up and down the board as well. I think it's really, really good to see where our feet's landing and as well as the weight distribution as we spoke about before. The benefit here is we don't have a camera on the nose, so there's nothing to watch out for in terms of maybe kicking it or anything like that. So it can be really good to make sure you're still getting that same visual without any obstacles in the way. The other thing that this can be really good for is if we've tried everything that we can to troubleshoot certain problems and we think, okay, I've listened and I'm trying to bend my knees, I'm trying to keep my chest low, I'm trying to do all of these things to do a certain maneuver, then it provides the other context which can be really, really good. And it's more of a fun, kind of lively, dynamic feel to the footage if you are interested in getting footage of yourself as well. Now, as you know, today I was using the DJI OSMO Action 4 and just a little bit of an impression of the camera. It was really, really good from a practical standpoint. As some of you may know from my videos, I'm not a super technical guy when it comes to cameras. I've had a couple of these with a different brand before and had a few issues. The key issues that I've had previously is firstly the audio in the water. When I'm trying to talk to you guys, it going in and out, the wind becoming a bit of a problem. And I didn't have any issues with that with this one, which is really good. And then I think in order to get the turns or the picture of the turns really, really well, I do think that angle at the back can be really useful just so you can see your foot positioning, especially where from your perspective. I think that's good because if you want to be leaving notes for yourself in the water, if you've just had a really good wave or if you know that something didn't go to plan and you want to be able to look back on the footage and have a pin in something that didn't go wrong and leaving a note for yourself, then I think that can be really, really good. A couple of other things that I really like, the wide view on this is amazing. I definitely recommend using that. With a couple of the waves, and you can probably tell out there, I'm kind of really focusing on what I'm doing on the wave and my arms kind of going here, there and everywhere, but it still picked everything up. There wasn't a wave that I caught that I wasn't able to get because my hand was everywhere. And in terms of that being, I guess, reducing the barrier to entry to being able to do some handheld filming, I think that that's really effective and really good. I'm going to be taking this away. I'm headed to Europe and South America, so I'm going to be taking this away and using this whilst I'm away. So I really appreciate them kind of giving me this one. Very, very fortunate and lucky to have it. And so yeah, this is what I'm going to be using when I'm away and traveling and hopefully getting some epic waves. So hopefully there's more to come with this sort of thing as well. And the other last thing that I wanted to mention, which I only mentioned because this is a personal kind of quarry of mine, is it has a really cool battery pack that has 3 different batteries in it. I'm just awful at remembering and forgetting, I should say, to charge. So it has the 3 batteries in there, which is really good, super, super fast to charge as well, which I found, which was great. And it just means that if this one runs out of battery and you've got this with you, then it's a really easy kind of quick adjustment to pop the other battery in and continue on. So I hope today's been useful to give you a bit of an idea as to why you might use different angles for your filming of yourself. And if there's a few things that I've said today in terms of, oh, I would like to know this, would like to know that, and you want a resource for learning what to do in terms of your stage of your longboarding progression, please feel free to check out longboardsessions.com. So again, I hope that video has been valuable. We've got a few lined up at the moment that I'm really excited to bring to you. So we'll catch you on the next one.